All right, we have one more joining us.
Oh, cool.
Hello, Noreen. We just wanted to say hi. You don't have to unmute yourself. Just wanted to say hi. um, all right, so then let's get started. Harley, if you want to kick it off, I'll get started with you.
Sure.
All right.
I just was out, finally sort of made like a first trip out into the world and found this book called If I Had My Life to Live Over. It is sort of edited by Sandra Haldeman Marks, and it's about, it's a book with all poems and things written by women as they've aged and sort of looking back on life. I think it's really interesting. And I really loved the title poem, so I wanted to start with that. It's by Nadine Stair, If I Had My Life to Live Over. I'd dare to make more mistakes next time. I'd relax. I would limber up. I would be sillier than I have been this trip. I would take fewer things seriously. I would take more chances. I would climb more mountains and swim more rivers. I would eat more ice cream and less beans. I would perhaps have more actual troubles, but I'd have fewer imaginary ones. You see, I'm one of those people who live sensibly and sanely hour after hour, day after day. Oh, I've had my moments, and if I had to do it over again, I'd have more of them. In fact, I'd try to have nothing else, just moments, one after another, instead of living so many years ahead of each day. I've been one of those persons who never goes anywhere without a thermometer, a hot water bottle, a raincoat, and a parachute. If I had to do it again, I would travel lighter than I have. If I had my life to live over, I would start barefoot earlier in the spring and stay that way later in the fall. I would go to more dances. I would ride more merry-go-rounds. I would pick more daisies. So that's Nadine Stair, and I've only gotten partway through, but everything I've read in there has been amazing so far, and it is all different poets, so it's not just her. I sort of have mostly been revising lately, so all the new thoughts and stuff are still just like brain mush, and I don't have anything super new, but I'm going to read a couple that I probably haven't read before. This first one is called Nolita. 45 degrees, tilted breeze, off center, head down, a woman's tears caught in the cement, gypsy life memorialized. The garden is closed today, pedestals turn away from my gaze through the fence, and I was engulfed in the street sweeper's gust of grime and dust. The morning droll on Prince, a Wednesday breakfast in Havana. Coffee slowed down to a sludge, neighborhood muses sleep like playing cards, while the waiters and waitresses rise among the dead to pay their toll among the living. Hermanas braiding each other's hair, hermanos cutting limes, hipsters coming and going, a rebirth and a reawakening. 11 a.m. and the city has barely come alive here, and with the life comes a death, where even the tinkers know to move as the worms turn in soil. Her tears were for her yesterdays, and not for her tomorrows. And this one is called a leaf in love with chaos. I felt like a presence over my back shoulder here. Reliving fragments of time lost in your apartment in Bloomington, when we were unfiltered and unadulterated, chaos, young and wild and free. Such blank canvas full of possibility, tender with untamed expression and limber around the bonfires of our dreams. We were wanderers, a bet without direction, reveling in the randomness and lack of adult decisions and this feeling that had us swept up like leaves, swirling around our ankles and whisked away, driven by invisible devils and invisible chariots. Ah, yes, we were vacant vessels once, before the world folded in upon us. Your breast heaved in the moonlight, and we caved within the rubble of it all. How have we fussed and grown accustomed to a normal we never believed in? Remember when we were vibrant leaves in love with chaos, brilliant in our own universe, and now, hailed and jarring, aged into the cattle of routine and safety belts? If we close our eyes, can we revel in the freedom that was our youth?
Thank you, Harley.
Yeah.
All right. Anne, if you're ready, we'll have you go second.
Okay. Am I loud enough?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay. Set. The din of a stagnant dining room table. Stale, speechless breaths. Stale, speechless breathes. Layer of effluvium pressing down upon aroma, yearning to delight as commissioned. Chagrined by its position in the color block painting of olfactory. The one that held the brush and released the final pinch of time, now seized amid ingrate mouths, tasting only malaise, hearing bare disquietude, time bearing to hear disquietude. Pinched sugary mylar of rehearsed pageantry, bursts to shh when the first designer chair scrapes against parquet. Audacity and soul revesting of excusing oneself first from the puppet feast. This next one is purge. Your mouth would be clean, if not today, then when you wean sear badlands of your dreams, off promises of oases, told by ash that refreshes, even as it burns. Downwind, I tried to give you soap, but the bars fetter chaste, even as it feeds upon hems of your nightgown. A hand-me-down patch, work of artifice and lie, soaked in last season's latest wrinkle. Tomorrow, I'll wash your feet in mandrake root, boiled in wine and shapeless to ward off Adam odor and ancient Rome's germ and or German. Nation, I'll anoint you with olive oil and let fig leaves absorb the stain. Juice of your pierced, meaty words will run clear.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, let's see. Where are you? Oh, sorry. All right, Kevin, if you are ready to go for
Can
it.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I see the little meter in the yeah. It's my AV geekitude. Anyway, that's some things to read, and I don't know if they're any good. Doesn't. We'll pretend. That's the beginning. The first one's called Xena's Travel Guide. It's a title. The dream that nothing works, lost with the X in a Jersey airport. No time, no tickets, no clue. A bearded lady officer asks if we need a tour. Well, yes, we need more. And then I try to explain how much. A morning news screen bears the words, Moms who thought their kids were zombies. As later I recall from life, a father who deemed his son a robot. What is distance? But an infinitude of choices, overheating cars, bikes with no brakes, airports named and renamed without explanation. You and me as a provisional unit held together by windburn and hard sun. There are no pre-Socratics, no Gnostics, no founding fathers. A crab and a gull lost the fight for what washed up. For what is us? What is for us after such a time, after such a long time? Treasured items, surely, dead things and shells from which we fashion life. So that's the end of that one. This one's funny, I think, maybe. It's called Red, Green, Preserve Me. There being no one else to tell, I'll admit, I watched a movie about sharks prowling in the snow. And yes, broke yet another thing. Then fashioned said thing, broken thing, with duct tape and strips of plastic cut from a venerable AAA card. So handy, those little old bits. Such hints from Eloise while she parties with the shop class. Yes, so handy always. Bracing some old louvered thing with L plates and scavenged wood screws. What meets at one corner, or two, or four. What swings when thick night hears the moon, unmoving. This is great. I can sort of mouth things now, so I can say this. All right, so this one's called Edik, and if you're a Trekkie, you know what that is, and if you're not, you probably wouldn't be all that impressed anyway. Anyway, so it's called Edik, and may or may not earn that name. Al goes on my trail, yet another crazy person to think he or she will live forever. The wear and teardrop stains the tracks of my days, showing where cracks are starting to end me. I wake and walk and endeavor not to worry, as no one pays me. It solves nothing. Might think me a cheap date for capital, and maybe so, though many tensions point to those so many disappointed, finding I am simply human. To be that simple should not be a privilege, and better than a right. It should be a given, a birthmark, a gift from life, never ungiven. That being born gives everyone the easement of the public ways and the private. The place to lay one's head, to sit and rest, the value of breath. Nothing to sell, nor lease, nor rent, nor buy, nor bear in need of transferal. Everyone, yes, everyone should have the gift just to be. And those around, to be so delighted we are and glad we all are and live together. That peace of mind, that peace of life, wherein each and all add up to one another and belong. Thank you. And that's it. That's 3. I could read more, but I don't think they're any better.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll probably go into round 2. Because
I'll go old then.
yeah, I'm gonna read now, and then that's the end of our list currently. Unless anybody else wants to jump in.
You could shoot up a flare.
I think the Facebook flare is probably yeah, it's working. But yeah, so we'll go into round 2 in a little bit. I'm gonna read you some stuff that's been lingering in my notebook for a couple of weeks. So they're not new, but they're things that I've been paying attention to again. So they feel kind of new to me. All right, so yeah, I'll start you off with should I start you off with the difficult one or the sad one? I think I'm gonna go with difficult. I'm gonna do the difficult one first because the sad one is still like, it's nice, but the difficult one is difficult. Hang on one second, I gotta find it. See, I went back to my notebook. So no more Google Drive. It's a wasteland. It's a wasteland that I'm not going back to anytime soon, until I figured this thing out. Okay, so this poem, to preface this, some of you may know, going to open mics, that I talk about this often, but I was brought up Catholic, and I went to a private Catholic school from 2nd through 8th grade. So the majority of my childhood and formative years were spent in a Catholic school and a church, and a family that, while raising me Catholic, also gave me a lot of secular, separated conversations that helped me balance it. But I'm still dealing with a lot of the stuff that Catholic school gave me that is not useful in my adult life. And so a lot of my poetry has been focusing on that. So this is one of those, which is why I call it difficult. So the title of the poem is "Adoption is the Only Option." A sweet baby of 12, still so ignorant of my small, blooming body, believing the power of prayer to keep me good and pure, asked to write an assignment, an essay, about not killing unborn babies, that every life was a precious gift and should be treated that way. Well, sure, I guess I can do that, but how does the baby actually get there? And why wouldn't the mom and dad be able to take care of it? Wouldn't grandma help? Isn't there anything we can do so the baby isn't in this situation in the first place? Like, can't mom wear a mask or something, or wash her hands after sex? I guess I'll ask the internet. Oh, they did not cover this in abstinence class. Wait, you have to do what to get pregnant? Oh, so why don't we, okay, how about we make these things? Oh, condoms? Condoms? Available to girls and boys, so everyone's good. Wouldn't Jesus prefer us smart and safe than fearful and paranoid? Wouldn't education and prevention be much more discreet and less uncomfortable? Wouldn't it alleviate the shame of our girls? Wouldn't it make us feel in control? I submitted my well-researched essay, works cited including the Bible, author Jesus, and PlannedParenthood.org, author a nice smart lady on the internet. It was not submitted to the bishop. Yeah, so that was 7th grade for me. Thank you. And it's weird. It's more of a performance poem for in person. So well, I'll work on it. Okay, so this is my second one. The title is Hands. The hands can tell the story. It's how I came to believe the old sailor's tale, that he was the one in the photo. His hand on the nurse's waist, it covers nearly all of the space between her hip and her rib cage, wraps around her slight torso, pulls her in for that passionate kiss. Her hands, one balled up by her side clutching her dress, the other caught in the press of the sailor above her. She clutches a handkerchief, she'd been crying. Both caught in the emotion of a city celebrating the end of war, the end of worry. The boys coming home, girls who kept it all together, pressed beneath history, but their hands tell their story. I often worry about my hands. Their little aches and pains suggest something more. I worry that their delicate joints might someday swell, lock up, contort into unfamiliar shapes that don't tell my story. I worry most often about my hands as red patches of psoriasis begin to speckle the soft undersides of my forearms, creep around my wrists. I wonder how long it may take for it to make the back of my hands maps of foreign lands. How long until I can't hide it anymore? How long until the outward signs are screaming? What comes after? I can't answer it here now. My pen hand hurts a bit too much. Thank you. Okay, so those are my 2 contributions for the night. So we're jumping into round 2. If anyone else has anything to work on, you can raise your hand for me, and I'll unmute you. Kevin? All right.
Oh, I didn't. Oh,
You were
that's
quick on the
stinging.
draw.
Yeah. I have no one to blame but myself. I like the performance poem.
Oh,
Oh, let's see. I might have to turn off a fan. I have no idea. I don't know what I sound like. But yes, I've got all this apparatus here. I look like this fuzzy thing. All right, I'll just read. I'll just pull things out of thin air. Sorry, folks. This one's called Among. It's from something that might come out eventually someday. We're worried about. We won't get too technical. Among. Forget Arecibo. Never mind Roswell. I am among you, a creature in your midst. My world is identical to yours, though in no way the same. Great bubblegum tastes better in one world. I won't say which, but trust an alien to know. In my world, digital broadcast buffers well. Long, sad tones, uncrimped flows of flutes and violins do not ratchet. Longish durations of cheap eternity abide. I am slow and cannot jump as fast or as far as you. Years later I will arrive at the center you now abandon. I've programmed your robot to hear my voice only. Indeed, I don't even hear my voice. I speak outside my range of perception. Later, your robot will call mine just to remind me what I've said. So that's that one. We're just going to keep going. Oh, thank you. Bless you. Bless you all. I'll send you candy bars. Oh, maybe not. Sorry. All right, so what a cheap bid. All right, this one's called Tea Green. That sounds good, right? The shambling scalp should go rest. Let go of green gels and tea-stained teeth. Baskets of peppers burn every letter. Remember that hatchling we could give a cloud. Our old TV, I like our old TV, but the cloud needs it most. No one will whisper. Everyone will whisper. Okay, no one's more surprised when it ends than I am. Oh, this one. Oh, thank you. I'll do a third one. Number 3, short also, and also crazy. Outlived. I forgot all the trees lining the left side of Mercury Boulevard. The best of the stores, the gown for your wedding, gone. Once nothing leafy, now nothing fancy. Running west to Sunset and Gateway as if to a continental divide. Lewis and Clark, Abandon the theater, the time capsule. That's enough. Thank you. If you want, I'll read a fourth. Okay, one more. This is short also, so and weird and all that good stuff. What else? What else do you want? This is called Cadge from Werner H. There's a story behind this, but I'll read the poem instead. And then you can, if you ever want to know the story, you can push me back and I'll tell you. Or you can find it. It's from Werner Herzog's his early career. He hypnotized people. Bad man. Anyway, I stole this island. The beach was nothing, just for castaways. The huge gem-like rock at the center, it came with the island. The tractor with the front-end loader, that was extra. My dad was driving, but the chisel was old and dull and ready to stop working. The bones of the monk who also came with the island, when alive, he was rounder, and the chisel much sharper. Feel free. I won't tell you, you'll have to read it while you sleep, what he carved in one life, those few words. Thank you. That's my favorite theft. Anyway.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay.
Thank you for letting me read.
No worries. All right. As I said in the chat, if you want to go into your wild card poems and just, grab something out of your notebook, we can get a little crazy with it. So yeah, raise your hand if you're ready to go for round 2. Harley. All right. Unmuting you now.
The wild card poems, aren't these fun? So these are a couple that have been floating around that feel like brain stew, but maybe closer to being done. You can always email me at hgf2877@gmail. I'll put it in there. And if you have any thoughts, feedback, always appreciate. So this one is called a teenage poem, but I don't think that's supposed to be the title. It's really not. I don't know why it's on the top of the sheet, but it is. So it will be retitled. A deep breath to cold glass, frosting the sightlines upon the terraces of Serra da Estrella, white upon pristine virginal white, perfect and bittersweet, the mountains aglow, touch. Your fingertips, knives and ice. Tender and cutting in a blanket of January, and seeking the warmth of something bountiful and true. We left our robes upon the floor, and I broke bread swimming in our bed of pale blue, in tandem, 2 by 2. Breathe, you. Did you feel it too? A lustful embrace, and I, behind shallow walls and dancing alone with the melancholia of Fado, remembering the honeyed moon and how it fell upon your shoulders and plunged into the small of your back. Cascading fall, wild and curious without abandon. Will you return, dear, you asked, with alluring timbre in your voice? How can I? I was never supposed to be here in the first place. Where all that is graceful falls about you, like the ocean, encapsulating and deep, and even the waves circle around you like cats purring at your feet. We were a teenage poem. Ah, that's where it came from. And we were meant to burn in a tin can upon our homemade altar. There were pictures alongside scripture of blood and sage, for a promise of maturity, and on the other side it was only you swimming alone. Your eyes turned downward. Breathe, can you feel it? It is kindred and penetrating, vampiric and silent before the dawn, tender and deadly like the coldness of mountains in winter. I watched your breath on the glass, frosting. So I guess it was supposed to be called the teenage poem. I don't remember revising that line in there. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts. And this one is another one called A Hot Flame on a Short Stick. I made the acquaintance of a spirited, self-proclaimed arson once. He sat like lightning on a dry plain, playing with his book of matches and searching the cobwebs within the room. He was a decade drunk and smelled of it. I found him like this often. He prattled to himself in the darkest hours, his voice, machinery lacking lubrication, and so we fed him drink upon drink, trying to help capitulate his need for cleansing rain. His stories were fueled with whiskey and oil and the gasoline of happy hours. I liked him immediately. Our days were spent like this, him back to the wall waiting for some sort of smoke signal from beyond, and me across from him, all ears and frangible perspective. I always listened too closely. He told me of setting fire to the most beautiful things just to watch them erupt against the night sky. He told me his secret of burning bridges and friends, how he would torch anything that would get too close. I found myself as a tender moth lured to the beckoning of his narcotic light. His musings were a well-lit path meant to hide the danger within his being. He burned and burned and burned. The heavens were aflame with his testimonies. After months, there became silence, a returning of abandoned structures, and an unknowing that became like kindling between us. He sat perfectly still, returning to his cobweb watching, hoping he would catch fire and feel the lick of tongues overtake him, until he laughed and laughed and laughed. I left him there after a while and never returned. I heard a few months back there was a body, found black and crisp in the alley behind the bar.
Thank you, Harley. All right. I'm gonna bust out my wild card. This one came up in my memory yesterday because I have been on the hunt for shorts that have pockets, and for women, that is an impossible thing. They are either fake pockets, only fit like a chapstick, like they're like this long and you cannot fit anything in them, or they literally cut, like they sew the seams so that you can't get into the, like there's no pocket for you to get into. So this is the case with all of women's pants, jeans, shorts, whatever. And then I discovered that men's swim trunks have the most substantial pockets I have ever seen in my life. They fit everything. And men wear them into the water. What do you need pockets for in the water? Whatever. So that's another poem entirely that I'm probably going to write. But this one I wrote last year when low-rise jeans were trying to make a resurgence. Like there were like 3 articles that were like, bring back low-rise jeans, they're so cute. And for anyone who grew up in the early 2000s and was a preteen girl, I guess. maybe this is a very specific, but preteen to like young woman in the early 2000s, low-rise jeans were the only things available to you, like unless you went to Old Navy and bought bootcut mom jeans, and that was it. And that was probably it was the worst period for my self-esteem just because I was a teenage girl. But I think low-rise jeans contributed a lot to it, and I wrote a poem about that. So please bear with me. There is a lot of foul language in this poem, including in the title. So the title is Fuck You, Low-Rise Jeans. Fuck you, low-rise jeans, for making my teenage years one continuous game of is my entire ass crack hanging out right now, in the middle of French class, in the hallway, while I'm standing here simply breathing, for the agony of a mall dressing room where none of the jeans I have in here with me accurately fit any part of my body. Seriously. How does each cut tell me something different about what is wrong with me? How can you constrict every one of these body parts while simultaneously stretching out and sinking lower and lower throughout the day? Fuck you for showing my underwear to complete strangers. But mostly, fuck you for the hours I spent agonizing over these thick thighs and soft belly. for making me think the world wasn't made for them, that cute and comfortable were only for those whose hip bones protruded over your low-slung lines, that desire and perfection starts and ends at the hips. The trends have moved on. High rise has come into its power. Mom jeans that hold my curves like the glory they are, but don't ask when the grandkids are coming. I am older now, sure of what I want and how I can get it. So fuck you, low-rise jeans. I deserve more. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right. Hang on. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute everybody. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Zoom. Ooh, Catherine. I asked to unmute you, Catherine. There we go. All right, great. Yep. Hello. Does
Hey.
anybody else want to read? Anything?
I have a tiny one. It's like
Go for it.
5 lines.
Go for
That's hard to follow though, because this is
it. No, it's totally fine.
okay. Brew. There are things that are quiet in the mouth. Worm into the baby bird, a minute too late. Tea served cold to the flock. Silence of the disabused. Shame on mother hens.
Hmm.
Very nice.
We're getting into the wild cards.
Wild cards.
Wild cards. Yeah, I mean, all right. So, I don't know. Do you guys want to have like a poetry discussion or get feedback on if anybody has feedback for anybody on poems? You know, we can do that if you'd like, or